Hey, what's going on, folks? We have a great show for you today. So CNN announced that it's canceling Brian Stelter's show, Reliable Sources with Brian Stelter, which reminds me of this clip of college student Chris Phillips exposing his entire ideology and network in under 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you for coming. My name is Christopher Phillips. I'm a first year at the college. My question is for Mr. Stelter. You've all spoken extensively about Fox News being a purveyor of disinformation. But CNN is right up there with them. They pushed the Russian collusion hoax. They pushed the Jussie Smollett hoax. They smeared Justice Kavanaugh as a rapist, and they also smeared Nick Sandmann as a white supremacist. And yes, they dismissed the Hunter Biden laptop affair as pure Russian disinformation. With mainstream corporate journalists becoming little more than apologists and cheerleaders for the regime, is it time to finally declare that the canon of journalistic ethics is dead or no longer operative? All the mistakes of the mainstream media, and CNN in particular, seem to magically all go in one direction. Are we expected to believe that this is all just some sort of random coincidence, or is there something else behind it?
It's too bad. It's time for lunch.
You have 30 seconds.
No, I mean,
Brian.
there's a clock that says 30 seconds. But I think my honest answer to you, and I'll come over and talk in more detail after this, is that I think you're describing a different channel than the one that I watch. But I understand that that is a popular right-wing narrative about CNN. I think it's important when we talk about shared reality and democracy, all these networks, all these news outlets have to defend democracy. And when they screw up, admit it. But when Benjamin Hall, the Fox correspondent, was wounded in Ukraine, the news crews at CNN and the New York Times stopped what they were doing, and they tried to help. They tried to help him get out of the country. They tried to find the dead crew members. That's what news outlets do. That's how they actually do work together, to your question about sharing those kinds of connections and trust. We don't talk about it enough, though. We don't share that reality about how that happens. And with regards to the regime, I think you mean the President Biden. The last time I spoke with a Biden aide, we yelled at each other. So that's the reality of the news business that people don't see, that people don't hear. They imagine that it's a situation that it simply is not. But I think your question, it speaks to the failure of journalism to show our work and show the reality of how our profession operates. We have a lot of work to do, I think.
Now, I love that clip because it shows you what you can do. You don't even need a massive following. You don't need Instagram followers. You don't need to be old. And you don't need to be a cheerleader on the sidelines. You can make a massive impact with a great question and honest analysis. I hope more people are inspired by Chris. And I also want to touch on Andrew Tate being banned from Facebook and Instagram. And if you don't know who Andrew Tate is, he's exploded recently, kind of as this alpha guy, speaking very straightforward, talking bluntly, and speaking his mind. Where does cancel culture end? How do we counter it? Are we winning or losing? These are things we're going to chat about, and I'll answer your questions at the end. So stay tuned, and I'll put some of your comments on the screen, and I'll do a live Q&A at the end. Thanks for watching. We're live.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dream Rare Podcast. I appreciate you guys joining me. I have a pretty short show for you today, so stay tuned and I'll answer just any of your random questions or comments at the end. And anybody that's on Facebook, that's a Facebook supporter, we're doing a supporters-only private live stream today at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So I want to talk about the Brian Stelter story real quick. I guess he's been fired from CNN. They're no longer in need of his professional journalism and, just charming ability to really put on a show. And quite the tragedy, but I wanted to really highlight that Chris Phillips clip because it's one of my favorite clips of the year. I got to meet that kid, that college student Chris Phillips, at an event I was hosting, and I hosted a thing with him. Super nice kid, super inspired. They have this little journalism crew at their school where they just do real journalism, ask questions, etc., with a conservative skew. And it really shows you how you can make a difference. Getting angry, I think, is overrated. Getting emotional, just like sitting there. I'm not saying everybody has to do something, but it's crazy how a simple question, right? Being in the right place at the right time, going to an event, being peaceful, respectful, you don't have to act crazy, but just simply just saying a minute and a half, knowing your stuff, right? Being informed and educated, and just asking Brian Stelter a question. It's crazy how that, to me, was one of the coolest things I've seen all year. All it took was a college student to really just shatter the illusion in front of CNN. And, you don't have to make fun of Brian Stelter, although it is hilarious. Just, being there with that type of question, it's so powerful. So, some people think you need a following to make a difference. You need millions of followers, etc. Chris Phillips at the time had virtually no followers. He just was in the right place at the right time, doing his due diligence in this quote unquote fake democracy and asking a simple question. So that's really inspirational. And, when it comes to Stelter being fired, I'm not going to talk about it too much. First of all, he does look very crazy to me. He kind of looks like, I'm not trying to be rude, but he does remind me of a sleep paralysis demon. You know what I'm saying? If you wake up in your sleep and you're paralyzed and you're it's not a fun sight to look at. But besides that, I don't know what to really say about him and Chris Cuomo, being fired from CNN. I believe a lot of my peers could do their jobs. They just sit on television, they work for a big news network, they push the narrative, they push the agenda. And now that they're fired, we get to see if they can do our jobs, because I don't think their job is very hard. I have a soul, so I would never do it, but it's not really that difficult to me to do what they do. Can they make it on their own? Now they're in this entire arena of millions of people. They're competing with TikTok influencers, people who do food reviews. I mean, the internet is this wild, wacky world of everybody's doing everything, and you no longer have this massive corporation to prop you up. So that's my question to the Stelters and the Helter Skelter Stelters and the, Cuomo homodomos. No, I'm just kidding. He's not gay. I'm just putting words together. I like to rhyme. I'm a rapper. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see if they can make it in the world of podcasting and independent media. I don't think they can. I don't think they can hold it on their own. And I think that about a lot of people on television. I'm not a hater, but I am honest. And it's a lot of these people, I'm why do people pay them money? Why do they get all these opportunities? I'm not jealous or anything, but I'm just a consumer. I'm 90% of these people are clowns, and I don't understand why they're getting the money. But when it comes to corporations like CNN, ABC, NBC, it seems like if you can just push the status quo, they'll let you do that. It's they're robots. They're speaking news report. I don't know if they have a soul. What's the lady's name? I'm trying to think. I can't think of it now. The blonde chick who was at Fox, and then she went to a liberal news. Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly on the news was cool, but when she had to make her own platform, she's doing okay. She's not doing terribly. She's trying to tell people she has a soul now. No, I'm a real person. I care about stuff. She's doing pretty well, but she's not doing that great. Nobody really listens to her that much. So, I just find it hilarious as somebody. I do have a slight bias, obviously, politically and just in general. But I've worked my butt off my entire life to grind to get this audience. So when I see people like this that just, I'm not saying they didn't earn it, but now they actually have to, it's okay, we don't have all this money and power behind me. Do people like me? Do they want to listen to me? Am I good at my job? I don't think a lot of them are. So I find it hilarious as someone who busted my ass for 10 years to get here. Can you hang in the World Wide Web? I don't think you can, but good luck, Brian Stelter, and we'll see where CNN goes from here, because, the whole network should be canceled, in my opinion, and they should just rebrand, but they won't do that. Speaking of canceled and people who can hang online, Andrew Tate has blown up as one of the biggest internet phenomenons of the year. Andrew Tate, for those of you who don't know, you might have heard the name recently. He's a former kickboxer. I guess he was on the television show Big Brother. And recently he's just come out as one of these macho alpha mans that's telling men basically he's certainly not a liberal. He's definitely not left wing. He's the exact opposite. He's just being you're a man, women need to listen to me, women shouldn't be pilots, I would never fly as a woman pilot, saying stuff that's super edgy to a normie, but to me it's just kind of funny and interesting to listen to. But the reason Andrew Tate is becoming so popular is because the left has become so pathetic and degenerate, and the stuff that they're pumping into your kids is so insane. Someone said he's a douche. We'll get into that later, but I'm just doing an analysis before I tell you my opinion, but I appreciate yours. Before I tell you my perspective on it, I'm just trying to build the narrative of why Andrew, I almost said Andrew Yang Gang, he's always squirting there's this video of Andrew Yang like squirting like whipped cream into someone's mouth. He's like, "Yang gang, forward party." Like, oh. That video is so funny. Find the video of Andrew Yang squirting like whipped cream in someone's mouth. But back to Andrew Tate. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Andrew Tate is getting popular because the left has gone so far left. They're pushing this weakness. They're telling men they have to hate themselves. They're telling men they have to like, cuck themselves and just be like totally pathetic and subservient and, inject themselves with 4 Pfizer shots, and it's cool if they shove estrogen pills in their mouth. I mean, the culture is telling left-wingers that it's so cool to do that. So Andrew Yang is I'm sorry. Yang gang, no. Andrew Tate is the pendulum swinging back the other way. He's going the full other way. He's like, I'm a man. Women need to listen to me. That's the dynamic of why he's blowing up, is because he's providing young men the exact opposite, like super just macho masculinity in many ways. And that's just why he's gotten popular. My personal opinion of him, before we talk about why he got canceled and what it means, honestly, I'm a grown man at this point. I mean, I'm 32. I had to think about how old I am. I'm 32. I can handle it. I don't have to agree with everything everyone says to like them or think they're funny. With Andrew Tate, I'm not the same person he is. We're not exactly the same. I don't agree on all of his takes, but I do find him incredibly entertaining, and why I do like him to an extent is because he's providing some value. I'm a value guy, right? I'm not very impressionable at this point. Like, someone can't control me and make me them. I'm myself. I'm confident. I like my life. I know a lot of stuff. So I only kind of look for value. Can you teach me something? Are you offering me something? Are you good at something? Are you making me think in a different way than I have, in a good way? And Andrew Tate provides a lot of value. Say what you want about the guy, but he's super smart, super high IQ. And he's got this huge platform, and he's bringing a lot of these discussions to the forefront that I've never heard before. Here, I'll give you a few things that I liked about his Nelk Boys podcast. He was on something called the Nelk Boys, which is one of the biggest podcasts in the world. And Andrew Tate started kind of challenging Christianity. And a lot of Christians watched it and said, oh my God, he hates Christianity and he's so bad. But he lives in a Christian nation. He lives in Romania. But basically what he was saying about Christianity is he was saying Islam is the only real religion in the world, because in Islamic countries, you still have some people who follow the book. And in America and all these Western nations that claim to be Christian, they don't follow the book. And he says a lot of churches don't follow the Bible. And the point he was trying to make was, how can you be a Christian nation if your book says marriage is between a man and a woman, but now you don't even respect the book? So I took it as a challenge. As somebody who is a Christian, I wasn't offended by Andrew Tate pushing in that direction, saying Islam's the only real religion. I didn't take it as, oh my God, he's so mean and so terrible. I was like, honestly, Christians have to hear this, because, say what you want about Islam. In certain countries, they have been able to keep out the LGBT mafia. They have been able to stop the slippery slope. I don't think they're shoving hormones in their kids' bodies in like Saudi Arabia. I'm not saying Saudi Arabia is perfect. I'm a proud American. I love this country. I'm a proud Christian. But to the point he's getting, I like to be challenged. You see my channel, I challenge people all the time. So I like the fact that he was saying, it was basically like a wake-up call to the Western world. Wake up, Christians. Like, what are you doing? Your countries are falling apart, and you guys are not even able to keep your actual book intact, and half the pastors don't even follow the book. I thought it was a great point. Anyway, in that interview, he also brought up something that I found fascinating. He brought up Romania. He lives in Romania, which is a mostly white country, obviously Orthodox Christian, etc. And he said basically that even though it was a poor country, there was organized crime. So you get what I'm saying? Even explaining it, even though I'm going to get into the things I disagree with him later, but he provides interesting takes, and he's taking, like, you listen to the Nelk Boys, no offense, I like the Nelk Boys, but, they have on good guests, etc., but they're not being challenged all the time from the right. And I'm not saying they're bad, but this guy's bringing a lot of points that nobody wants to talk about in this big influencer media, because everyone wants to just be bros and sell beer and, like, we're kind of right wing, but we're not really conservative. It's fine. I'm not knocking them. I like the Nelk Boys. I'm just saying Andrew Tate's this guy who's bringing in a lot of interesting conversation to a group of people that get tens of millions of streams that aren't talking about this type of stuff. So in Romania, he started bringing up the demographic argument, where he said, even though Romania is poor, there's organized crime. And he said organized crime sometimes is better than unorganized crime. You know, you go to America, there's a lot of unorganized crime. It's not like you have mafias that are targeting people that owe them drug money. You have a bunch of aimless gangbangers that are literally like, you know, stabbing people over like a 7-Eleven argument. You know what I'm saying? America's a mess. You look what's going on in Los Angeles. They're doing like flash mob, you know, break-ins. Now our country is a mess. The cities are a mess. Crime is rampant, and he's saying there's not a lot of random crime in Romania, even though it's poor, that there's organized crime. And the point that he's trying to make is he says a Romanian woman can walk the streets at 3 a.m. People that are crying about what I'm saying, I haven't even gotten into the controversial part. So if you can't handle what I'm saying now, just doing like a breakdown of what Andrew said, you're definitely not going to like my takes later. So I haven't even said much. But the point he tries to get to is like, why can a woman walk in Romania at 3 a.m. even though it's a poor country, but they can't walk the streets of New York City alone during the day? You know what I'm saying? Something's going on. And he starts to bring up demographics, but before he was like, whoa, wait, never mind, I don't want to be called racist, I'm half black or whatever. He was like, in Romania, people have this sort of national pride where they're like, you know, she's Romanian, I would never hurt a Romanian woman, so despite poverty, you don't have senseless murders in Romania. So, you know, someone said, I'm not sure that's true. I've talked to people in Romania. They said gypsies steal stuff. It's not like there's no crime, but a lot of these countries are safer than America in some cases. Poverty doesn't equal murder. It's cultural, demographically in America. I mean, it's the unwritten, you can't talk about it, but everybody sees where the crime rate is spiking, and there's a reason for it. And honestly, I mean, I just watched the movie Uncle Tom 2. I was at the premiere, and they make a very interesting argument about why that's happening in the black community. They talk about Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, a lot of brainwashing culturally in that department. Fascinating stuff. I'm going to cover that next week. But in general, the point I'm trying to get to is, and then just to keep it moving, Andrew Tate also brought up how you can't really have FU money in America because the government can take your stuff at any time. Long story short, I'm not going to drag on with all of his takes, but listening to his podcast recently, although I don't agree with everything he says, and I'll get into what I disagree with, I like Andrew Tate because he's highly intellectual. He's fast-paced. I'm a fast-paced guy. And he's saying things that a lot of people aren't saying and challenging people, right? He's a kickboxer, right? You challenge people. I like to be challenged. Everybody doesn't have to agree with me. Just make sense and provide value. I think he has value. I think he challenges people. And a lot of people don't like to be challenged. Like, he was on Dave Portnoy's podcast. And no offense to Portnoy, but Portnoy, like, he's smart. I think Portnoy's a good businessman. Portnoy is, I think a good American. I love Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports. But when it comes to these arguments of like how to treat women and men and, you know, being an alpha and how America is falling apart in some ways, you know, Dave is a intellectual midget compared to Andrew Tate. Like, Andrew Tate clearly is somebody who's thought about all this stuff and has a game plan for his life. And I feel like Dave, although I love Dave, he's kind of just like a degenerate winging it. You know what I'm saying? Like, going through the motions, trying to play middle of the road. And, you know, he doesn't fully understand it on a spiritual or psychological level. So someone like Andrew Tate comes along and makes Dave Portnoy look like a mental midget because Dave is a tough guy in America because America's so pathetic. But when you have someone else of the same capacity, you know, he kind of paled in comparison. Although I don't fully agree with all of Andrew Tate's, my personal analysis, I could have debated him better or had a better argument. But the point I'm getting to is people haven't been challenged in this country. That's why I like competition. And when you bring certain arguments, even though they're uncomfortable, you know, a lot of people don't even know what to say because our country's so watered down that even a simple truth statement seems sexist or racist. It's so stupid. So long story short, they banned this guy. I'm going to get into the things I disagree with in a second, but this is where it gets interesting. Meta apparently, you know, according to Meta, this is BBC, it says responding to the news bans. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess TikTok has said misogyny is a hateful ideology that is not tolerated on TikTok. We've been removing violating videos and accounts for weeks, and we welcome the news that other platforms are also taking actions against this individual. So TikTok is glad for his Meta ban. I don't know exactly. I'm trying to see. Meta made, I don't know exactly where I saw what Meta said, but they said he violated some terms. They haven't fully explained it yet. We're waiting to see what terms he exactly violated or which video it was. And I'm wondering if they're going to do for Andrew Tate what they did to Alex Jones. Because with Alex Jones, when they banned Alex Jones, they didn't just ban Alex Jones. They pretty much did a blanket ban of anybody who posted Alex Jones. So Tommy Robinson, they did the same thing. So I posted a clip one time. I think it was a tweet that I screenshotted. It was basically a picture post, and it was of Tommy Robinson saying he got along with a Muslim. And at the time, I mean, this was early in my, political career or whatever I do. I was like, oh, this is a beautiful thing to me. I see this guy who's known as like fighting Islam all the time, getting along with an Islamic imam. I thought it was like a beautiful statement, so I screenshotted it. Long story short, Facebook comes like 4 years. They go back like 3 years, 2 years, 4 years, I don't even remember, and flagged my post from like 3 to 4 years ago. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with Facebook? But then I realized what they're doing to Tommy Robinson. It's like this blanket ban. If you even mention his name, he's like Voldemort. It's the name that must not be named. They took my post down just for simply posting it. Alex Jones is the same way. He's like Voldemort, where not only does he not have a channel, but you can't even post his videos sometimes because there's like a blanket ban of just anything to do with Alex, and they try to destroy it. So long story short, Andrew Tate's a phenomenon because he's the most viral person in the world right now because he's doing all these anti-left-wing takes. And he doesn't even have that many accounts to begin with. He had an Instagram, they banned it. He had a Facebook, they banned it. I don't even know if he has a YouTube channel. He doesn't have a TikTok, yet he's the most famous person on TikTok. So now this is my question. Now that Meta has opened the portal and banned his accounts directly, will TikTok, etc., start doing this blanket ban where they put into their algorithms that you're not even allowed to mention this guy's name or you're not even allowed to play his clips? And this is where artificial intelligence gets interesting. They have the technology now to scan videos, to scan pictures, to scan images, text, voice. They have this type of technology through artificial intelligence. And if they really want to, they can just basically put him into the algorithm and shut down anybody that shares his videos. I think they've kind of done that to Tommy Robinson and Alex Jones, where you just can't even seem to share too many clips of their stuff, or else they'll like scan it in some way and take it down despite what you said, etc. So, where does this go? We'll talk about it. When it comes to Andrew, I see a lot of people in the comments that don't like him. I'll say the thing that I don't agree with Andrew Tate, although I do find him fascinating, is, he's somewhat of a scammer. I think he was bragging about how when he was broke and owed somebody a bunch of money, he got a bunch of women who liked him to come together and do webcamming, and then he took the keyboard, basically. He said this publicly on Nelk Boys. He took the keyboard from the women because they weren't good at manipulating men, so he started manipulating the men, and he made millions of dollars by basically scamming men, scamming vulnerable men who thought they loved a woman, and basically just taking their money and exploiting them and lying to them. So he's totally a scammer. I don't find him a moral person, and I don't think that's the recipe for success in this world, doing like immoral scamming like that. But at the same time, I think every man has to choose their own journey, and I wish Andrew luck, and I hope he finds God, and I think he has found God. But long story short, it's definitely a rough life to live. Like, he's a kickboxer. It's hard to fight. I mean, it's a very violent sport. And then he also owed somebody a lot of money. Like, he's clearly not living a stable life, right? He's not like the most stable person. He's fighting. He's scrapping for money. He owes a lot of money. He's doing webcam. He's scamming rich guys. Like, to me, that's not a life that I want to live. I find that high stress, high shame. I'm not a perfect person, but when I really screw up, I feel bad about it. You know what I'm saying? My soul's like, yo, don't do that. I feel much better when I have a clear conscience and I'm not scamming people. So it's not something that I'd want to do. I don't envy him, and I don't think it's good advice for him to be telling people that. However, the flip side of what he's saying is he is opening a portal into how the world works, and he's really exposing it. And I think there's a lot of value there. So as long as you are your own person and not easily influenced, it's not a big deal. On Dave Portnoy's podcast, he got into this huge debate because he was kind of explaining, in America, unless you're one of these billionaires who's connected to the politicians, you do not get the special pass. Like, if you're Epstein's friends, you get special passes. If you're Epstein, clearly you get away with a lot of stuff. If you're a billionaire, if you're like Hillary Clinton or, I would say Joe Biden or Hunter Biden, it seems like you get away with a lot in this country. So the point that Andrew's making, if people listen, is like every country's corrupt. There's corruption in every government, and Andrew Tate's personal perspective is, if I can't be at the top of the pyramid in America, because even if you're famous, he's like, they can lock you down in a second, right? In America, they could lock your business down. It doesn't matter if you have $10 million, they could shut you down, they could take your money. They've done it to people. And Andrew Tate's philosophy is, if the whole world is scamming you, and the whole world is immoral, and the whole world is filled with corrupt governments, I'd rather move to a country where I'm part of the corruption, or at least I could pay off the corruption so they leave me alone and I have status above the corruption. So that's his whole theory of why he's in Romania, and he has 10 passports and he lives in a place with armed security. He says, listen, I look at the world the way it is. You think you have FU money in America, Dave Portnoy, but I think that the government can take it from you in a second and they could ruin your whole life. So I see the world the way it is, and instead of being a second-tier citizen with $100 million, I'm going to go move to another country and be a first-tier citizen and be in with the corruption so they leave me alone. It's fascinating stuff. I mean, whether you like him or not, I think he's really having a lot of uncomfortable decisions. He talks about women also, and basically like, I disagree with how he looks at women. He wants multiple women. I don't think he has kids. I don't think he wants a family. That's his personal take, though. It's not like it doesn't influence me. I don't agree. However, I think he brings up a lot of important points about why men and women are different. That's why he's getting banned as well. He's saying men and women are not the same. He says, I would never fly with a female pilot. Like, I won't do it. And everyone's like, why? That's sexist. He's like, men have better, less emotion. So he's like, I don't drive with women. I don't let women drive me. Obviously, a lot of people will say that's sexist, but it's interesting. I mean, that's the rule in Saudi Arabia, or at least it was for a while. I'm not saying there's some good women drivers, but it's the same thing as like the NBA. Like, why was Danica Patrick a standout, and why was she never as good as some of the male drivers? Why are the top 100 players in the world right now in chess all men? Why is the NBA better than the WNBA? I'm not saying that women are worse. I'm just saying they're unique and special, and they're better at other things. We have to stop acting like men and women are exactly the same. So I think he brings up a lot of those points in a very harsh way. Someone said he's a douche. I think he knows that. I think he knows he's a douche, and a lot of people think he's that, but all I'm saying is he's opening up a portal of reality, of uncomfortable conversations that people don't want to have. And I think it's important that, in a free society or a not free society, people are allowed to hear this and think for themselves, combat him and counter him when they want, and also agree with certain takes. I think he's right about a lot of stuff. I think, although I don't fully buy into his theory of how men should be with women, I do agree with him that men are pathetic in this world. They could use a little oomph. I think there's differences between genders. I do think there's pros and cons to each, and acting like we're exactly the same is psychotic. I personally have unpopular opinions about men and women that I don't talk about much because it doesn't come up, but for example, I think there's certain women that handle guns better than me. Like, there's sharpshooting women that win gold medals in skeet shooting. You know what I'm saying? I'm all for, like, extraordinary women that are just as good as men to compete, but I'm not for lowering the bar for women. Like, I think it's insane that there's, like, female guards that are getting the crap eaten out of them. Just like I think it's insane that there's like 80-year-old guards that can't even like walk, they're waddling. You ever go into a place with security and there's like a 75-year-old guy that I could push over with my finger? It's like, what's the point of having security if it's going to be this 85-year-old guy that's wobbling? I want that guy to get his money, but you're not securing anything. You know what I'm saying? I think security should be like strong men. And like the occasional extremely talented sharpshooting woman. But like the fact that like our military and police force is filled with a bunch of women, I'm not saying that they don't have a place if they could pass the test, but I would assume that if you have the top 100 men that are great at shooting and the top 100 female, I'm guessing similar to NASCAR, similar to basketball, similar to chess, I'm assuming that men are, on usually better on average, at that type of stuff. They're, it's just my opinion. It's like UFC. I love women fighters. I love like Rose Namajunas, and I love female fighting. Amanda Nunes is a monster. You know what I'm saying? Juliana Pena. I love the UFC. Women are very exciting to watch. but they would get the shit beaten out of them if they ever joined the men's department. You know, they could probably kick my ass because they know all this jujitsu. But when it comes to, you know, if you want to build the best military and the best police force, I mean, I think men are, it makes more sense that, you know, so what does that make me? I'm not as crazy as Andrew Tate, but it's like, I welcome him challenging the system and saying interesting things, because a lot of things are really uncomfortable. And in my life, I'm just being honest, like I see a lot of relationships, a lot of marriages failing. Why are they failing? I think a lot of reasons. I think lack of religion and spirituality makes marriages fail. I think men being pathetic makes marriages fail. I think men not being able to control their wife makes marriages fail. And I don't blame the women, I blame the men, because why would a woman want to submit and like, you know, be like look up to an alpha if you're not an alpha? Like why would a woman like want to trust you with everything if you're not trustable? So I don't even blame the women for that, I blame the men. Also, technology is a big thing. You know, outside of the genders, you have access to everything. In the 30s and 40s, yeah, there was Christianity more widespread and laws, and people followed biblical principles. But at the same time, in the 20s and 30s and 40s, you didn't have all this technology. Like maybe you had a house phone, maybe you had the guy down the street, but you didn't have a smartphone. Like it's a psychological disaster for both genders. You get what I'm saying? Someone said blah blah blah. Yeah, blah blah blah, girl. That's what girls say. Blah blah blah. That's why I don't want you to be in the military. You could, you know, be on the computer or something, but I don't think you should be on the front lines. But God bless you though. Anyway, you know, in the 30s, 40s, 50s, you didn't have all this like access to just women all over the world and men all over the world. But nowadays, you know, from my smartphone, I could connect with women on every continent. I mean, it's a crazy power. You know, men have always liked women. Men have always been attracted to hot women, but now I could open my phone and I could talk to 100 women in Brazil. Like, that's kind of insane. Then I could talk to women in Tokyo. Like, what? You know, so they say power, you know, needs to be reined in or whatever. There's sayings for it. You know, what do you do with all that power? So men and women have way more temptation. Men and women have way easier time cheating than they would have in the 30s and 40s and 50s. And, you know, it's not particularly a man or woman fault that we have access to all this stuff. It's just we have to be honest about it. And when you're in a relationship or a marriage, you know, you have to be really transparent and honest, because nowadays with Instagram, with Facebook, with TikTok, not only do you just have like boobs and butts popping up in your face, or models or guys, whatever you are, but also you have the access to reach out to people and the access to, you know, live vicariously in a different life just staring at a screen. It's really difficult. I don't blame men. I don't blame women. I don't even blame technology. It's just a conversation that we have to have as we move forward to figure out what we're doing here, because we're all staring at screens. We're all seeing all this sort of stuff. We have access to everything. And sometimes the more you have, the less happy you are, right? When am I the happiest? I have all this technology. I have hundreds of thousands of followers, millions of followers on Facebook. You know, it's like, that's great. I'm so grateful. I'm appreciative. I'm like so stoked that there's 1,400 people here. That's like a concert. Imagine that in an arena. It's pretty cool. But at the same time, I'm the happiest when I'm in the ocean. No cell phone, no technology. I'm the happiest when I'm on a cruise and I put my phone down for 3 days. So we have to be honest. And it's like, despite all this access, you know, millions of women don't make you happy. The right woman makes you happy. Millions of people liking and downliking and commenting doesn't make you happy as much as being with your friends or your family. So at the end of the day, marriages are failing because technology is rampant. We have all this temptation. Men are pathetic nowadays. Women don't want to be reined in by their man. They just want to be all over the place. And that's how you become miserable too, because all these options don't always make you happy. Sometimes it's just the right connection with the right person that'll make you more happy than the connection to a million people. With that being said, you know, I don't agree with Andrew Tate's take on how he thinks a man should act, though I'm not offended by it. I think it's hilarious when he starts going on to certain rants, and I think there's a lot of value there. I think there's a lot of uncomfortable stuff that men and women don't want to hear. I think weak men are afraid to hear it. I think women who are used to just getting their way or never hearing any backlash don't want to hear it. And me, I bring on the challenges. I think both genders can be challenged. I think they're shutting him down because he's now providing an outlet for a bunch of men who have been turned into little girls, and a bunch of men who have been completely had their testosterone, their heritage, their religion sucked out of them, and they're like soulless little gremlins looking up to, psychotic left-wing celebrities. This is stuff that's, have a little bit of sympathy and empathy for this generation. I know right-wingers like to just dunk on these little guys and girls that are like, changing genders and stuff. To me, I don't think it's funny. Sometimes the videos are funny, but I find no humor in the fact that an entire generation of parents and teachers and, celebrities have failed these kids. I'm sick to my stomach when I see this stuff. I don't think there's a funny thing about it. I think it's evil. So it's like I see these 17-year-olds that don't know what gender they are, and they're depressed, and they're like cutting themselves, and you know what I'm saying? They're like going to school with a rainbow flag tied around their head. Like everybody in the right wing is like, ha ha ha, and I'm like, that's not that funny. That's like, it's really sad. These kids have been failed. They're not even old enough to know who they are, and they've already been manipulated into the point of psychosis, depression, and in some case, physical abuse. There's nothing funny about it. And a lot of these same right-wingers that are laughing at it are the same shitty parents that allowed their kids to go down that route because they didn't pay attention or didn't actually raise their kids right, and they didn't know what was going on. So it's like, I find nothing funny about it. Definitely there are some really funny videos that are laugh-worthy, but overall, I find these kids have been failed. And this is why Andrew Tate is popular, because these kids have been failed. These kids are getting depressed. These kids are not allowed to have fun. They're not allowed to make the jokes that I was allowed to make. If I was this age and they did this to me, who knows how I would have turned out. Thank God I was raised when I was raised. I was raised before all this stuff. Obama was in office, but nobody paid attention to him. We all made jokes. We all had fun. We all wanted to be like men. You know what I'm saying? There was a little activism here or there, but my gosh, like this type of stuff that they're feeding the kids is so evil. So now the pendulum swings back, right? When you go that far left and you go that far to range and you hurt tens of millions of kids, and anybody with a soul and half a common sense knows that that's not right, the pendulum flies all the way the other way, and you get Andrew Tate on the other side of the equation saying the exact opposite, very bluntly, in some cases rude, in some cases he may be wrong, but he's the opposite of the left wing. That's why he exists. That's why he's such a threat to them. And that's why they're canceling him, because he's probably inspired tens of millions of kids. I'm sure he's inspired a lot to be scammers and be degenerates, which isn't good. But he's also probably inspired tens of millions of kids to be a man again, inspired tens of millions of boys to understand that men and women are different, inspired tens of millions of kids to, be a little bit more alpha. And the system that's trying to turn your kids into like little depressed goblins, they don't like that. So, I see it for what it is. Just to wrap it up, and I'll get to some comments. Andrew Tate has been banned from Facebook or YouTube. On one case, I don't agree with everything he says. I understand why people think he's a douchebag. I understand why people think he's a hater or he's not a good influence for kids. He is the pendulum swinging back the other way. And really, when you listen to him, I listen to a lot of people. I'm not very easily impressed. Like, a lot of people bore me. There's no offense, but a lot of these Republican accounts, they just they say nothing of value, nothing interesting. They're just like literally stuck in loop to get a bunch of donor money and go to CPAC. I'm not very easily impressed. I can seem like a hater sometimes because people are so lame and pathetic that I'm just like, snooze. Andrew Tate, say what you want about him. Definitely not right about everything. Definitely not the most ethical person I've ever heard, but very fascinating, a lot of value, a lot of very interesting takes that haven't been said before. He's not a clone. He's definitely not somebody that just repeats talking points he heard from Charlie Kirk. I'm not knocking Charlie Kirk. I'm just saying he's not a generic person. He's got a lot of fascinating takes on geopolitics, on race, on religion, on what's going on in the world, on crime. A lot of really base takes that are really, not spoken even in right-wing circles a lot, that I'm just happy to hear, where I'm like, oh, this guy's got a brain. We might not agree on anything. He might be kind of a degenerate, but he's definitely not dumb, and he's definitely not boring, and he's definitely not basic. And as somebody who consumes a lot of media, I appreciate like a lot of things he's saying, and overall, they're gonna try to blacklist him, probably like Alex Jones, because he's teaching kids that there's another way out there. There's another way besides the left wing, psychosis that they're pushing. He's the other side of the pendulum, like it or not. Say what you want about that, but no script, nothing here. All I have is just this paper that has like a BBC and a Sky News little clip out. I mean, that's a solid like little analysis with no script. I'm not trying to brag, but it's like Brian Stelter can't be me. I could be Brian Stelter on CNN and just read things and be basic. Like, they have an easy job. They get a lot of money to just push the establishment, push the narrative, be like little cover-up boys and be like, oh my God, don't question Big Pharma. Oh my God, Ukraine's so cool. Oh my God, Trump's the fastest. It's easy. You think Brian Stelter could do an analysis on Andrew Tate for 20 minutes straight with no script and be that fluent and that interesting and know all his stuff without messing up? He couldn't. I'm just being honest. It's like Brian Stelter, Chris Cuomo. These people can't touch me. The only person the only person at Fox News that really impresses me, Tucker Carlson. He's funny. He's a comedian. He's interesting. He's got good, but he also has a staff that writes his stuff. He's got people who film. But Tucker Carlson could make it without Fox News, He could be successful without Fox News. The rest of these jokers on television, ABC, they're all losers. NBC, they're all losers. CNN, they're all losers. Fox News, 85% of them, if they lost their job on Fox News, nobody would go look for them on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. Nobody would listen to their podcasts. So I'm not saying podcasts are better than the news, but a lot of these people are their head's so far up their own ass, they think that they're making so much sense just reading generic left and right-wing talking points. They can't do what we do. They can't make shows and produce it like that. So I'm not trying to laugh at Brian Stelter, but I do find it funny when they get fired. It's like, imagine, do you think Brian Stelter could put up with what a bunch of conservative influencers have done? You think Brian Stelter could get 100 million views and then lose his monetization? Do you think Brian Stelter could get canceled from all major media and still gain a following like Alex Jones or Donald Trump? You think Brian Stelter could literally be like targeted in algorithms all the time? They're working against me. I have 1.7 million people on Facebook. I used to get 6,000 to 10,000 people in a live stream, and now I'm struggling to build it up to 1 and 2K again. I'm not complaining. It's still a lot of people, but I'm just saying, you think Brian Stelter could swim against the current? Of course not. He's a clown. Brian Stelter swims with the current. Everybody's working for him. Mainstream media, they're giving him money. They're acting like he's cool, and he still can't compete with us. He's still not as popular. He still can't get the clicks of someone like a Steve Bannon or a Dan Bongino. You know what I'm saying? People who are working against the wave, Hodge twins, Shapiro. Say what you want, but there's a lot of people where it's like, I don't even particularly agree with everything they say, but I can identify the fact that they've built their own thing and created their own thing when the current wasn't always working in their favor. And I don't think Brian Stelter, Chris Cuomo, or even a lot of the clowns on Fox News, I don't think these people could do it. They don't know what it's like, It's not easy. It's one thing to build your own audience. It's one thing to create your own business. It's one thing to, work. It's another thing to swim against the current all the time. Like, if and I'm not complaining because my life is good and I have to be creative with how I make money, etc. But it's like, if Facebook liked me like they like other people, guys, I'd have tens of millions of dollars. And maybe it's my own fault. I'm not good enough at business to create my own. But in general, it's like every step of the way, like if you're a gamer, they're like, here's $1 million, here's $2 million. Oh, you're Brian Stelter, here. You're featured. You're in the featured section. The algorithm loves you. If you're Anomaly, it's like, oh my God, we're going to take away your monetization for 3 months. We're going to ban you from live streaming with your supporters. We're going to take away your Instagram monetization. We're going to delete your TikTok video. We're going to stop you from streaming. These people can't hang, and it's only made me stronger. I'm not mad at it. It is what it is, but it's like they're streaming. They're swimming with the current. We're swimming against the current, but that's also why we're getting stronger. That's why we don't play the victim. It's like, jumping over hurdles. If you come from, a poor to middle class household and you make it out and you make success out of your life, you'll appreciate it a lot more than a silver spoon baby like Sam Harris, who, was handed everything. Everybody thinks he's an intellectual and he hates like Christians and Muslims and thinks everybody's so dumb. But then he says stuff like this. Let's play the clip of Sam Harris. So it's all good. We don't play the victim here, but we certainly don't say stuff like this.
I don't care what's in Hunter Biden's life. I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared. Right?
It's a great quote. Hunter Biden could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I wouldn't have cared. Sam Harris. Did George Washington say that? No, that was Sam Harris. This... I'm not trying to dunk on this guy, but he's such a condescending prick. Like, for years, I've seen people like, oh my God, he's such an intellectual. And for those in the comment section, they're like, oh, don't tie him in with Jordan Peterson. You didn't listen to what I said. It's fine, but maybe I said it wrong. The intellectual dark web was like a little gang that they made. It was like Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, the Weinstein brothers, Sam Harris. I'm not tying Jordan Peterson in because I'm saying Jordan Peterson is Sam Harris. They're different people. I'm just saying they made a little group called the intellectual dark web and then bragged about it and were like, we're the real intellectuals. I'm like, nobody's smart if you're putting Sam Harris in your group. So something fell apart there. He's been saying dumb stuff for years. But anyway, it is what it is. Let's see. Read some comments now. I promise I'd put some on the screen. So I'll hang out for like 10, 12 minutes and put your comments on the screen. Let's see. Someone said, was that a hint that Benjamin Franklin had children's skeletons in the closet? I don't know what Ben Franklin did, but apparently he had syphilis. Someone said, Anomaly can't complain. He's still on YouTube. I know plenty of good, truthful podcasts being taken off YouTube. It is true. I'm grateful to be here. Everything's not guaranteed. And I want to let people know a little secret to how I've been able to stay on here because I want to give a hint, okay? And I want to help people out because I don't agree with censorship. A lot of people are being targeted. I'm not in agreement, but here's the game you have to play if you want to stay on the platform. So it's like, have you guys ever played Minesweeper? I feel old. No one knows what Minesweeper. Minesweeper is a game, used to be on the computer. You click, there's numbers, and you don't want to hit a mine. You're purposely trying to miss the mines. That's the whole game. And you win when you clear the whole board and you don't hit a mine. Think of YouTube and Facebook and Instagram like Minesweeper, okay? If you want to completely speak 100% raw, unfiltered, whatever you want to say, there's nothing wrong with that. But here's how you have to do it. You have to build your own platform like Owen Benjamin. You have to build your own platform like Alex Jones. You know what I'm saying? Which, nothing wrong with that. I think that's awesome. I'm saying do that. If you want to do that, do that. What people do is they sit on YouTube and Facebook, and instead of playing Minesweeper, and I'm not saying to lie or cover stuff up, but figure out the game and say what you want to say without stepping on a mine. I say exactly what I want to say about vaccines. I say exactly what I want to say about Big Pharma. I never have to cut my own tongue out, but I identify how these little sneaky snakes play the game, and I counter them. I successfully backed a fact checker up and told them to take it away. Why? Because the facts are on my side, and it's a game they don't want to play with me. So this is my thing to like people like Steven Crowder, who had Carrie Lake on, and I think she talked about the election and they took it down. I'm not telling you to say the election was 100% fair if you don't think it was fair. You have every right to think that the election is not fair on multiple levels. But here's what you shouldn't do is run into a mine with no proof. If you're just going to run around and repeat Donald Trump and just say the election was stolen, and that's all you're going to say without providing evidence and doing like a real report, what's the point? You're taking an 100% risk for a 0% reward. It makes absolutely no sense. All these people that say that stuff about the election, they're not making documentaries. They're not providing evidence. They're not doing deep dive things to really show the public what was doing. They're just impressing Trump supporters and saying the same line on loop. So my thing is this. It's like if I'm going to do like election analysis, I'm going to analyze it and I'm going to explain it and I'm going to show without a shadow of a doubt that I'm right. I'm not just going to say buzzwords that don't mean anything at this point just to get myself in trouble. There's no reason for that. If I'm going to go at Big Pharma, I'm not going to say a bunch of things that I can't claim. If I'm going to go at Big Pharma, I'm going to say exactly what I believe is true, show 100% proof, and then if they try to fact check me or take my account, I'm going to court with them like Alex Berenson. Alex Berenson beat Twitter. Why did he beat Twitter? Because he made sure what he's saying was factually accurate. And then when they tried to take him away and they libeled him or whatever they did, Alex had all the proof on his side. So this is how you can stay on platforms, or at least how you can battle them. You can't 100% win, but know the game you're playing. This is my advice. If you want to speak 100% raw, unfiltered, build something like Unbearable's Media that Owen Benjamin built. Owen Benjamin wants to say whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and he built his own platform. Alex Jones wants to say what he wants. He built his own platform. That's the smart thing to do. You can't just sit on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and just say what you want and then act like you don't know what game you're playing. It's like I'm almost looking at a lot of Trump supporters now like they're kamikaze pilots. Like they run into the mine and then they cry about it. It's like, don't cry about it. Build your own stuff, I'm not censoring myself, but I'm playing Minesweeper. I know what the fact checkers do. I know how they operate. I know what Facebook does. I know how they operate. I'm not just going to run into a mine and be like, boom, and then be like, why is Matt Walsh still on here? He says what he wants, but Matt Walsh is strategic. He's not a dummy like a lot of these other influencers. It's like, he wants to fully explain himself. He makes an entire documentary. And guess what? They can't censor a documentary. They could take clips of it off, but now he's changed the world with his documentary, What is a Woman? And he did that via documentary form. So he's playing smart. On social media, he says what he wants, but he understands the game. And then instead of just complaining about being censored, he makes his own documentary on an alternate platform that people could watch. So the reason that I don't get censored on Facebook or YouTube as much, I've gotten strikes, I've gotten demonetized, I have warnings. Every time I log into Facebook, there's a warning. YouTube, there's a warning. Instagram, there's a warning. It's not like I'm in the clear and they've never done anything to me. They've written articles about me. They've taken away my money. They fact check me, and they're letting me know. I know it's an election season. Come August, September, all of a sudden all the censorship always ramps up. I know what these people are doing. I know that they're trying to censor right-wing leaning people around election time because they use excuses like, we're going to keep the election fair and clean. No, you're going to look for a way to socially engineer the masses into voting more Democrat because you guys have the data and you guys have the statistics on exactly what impact everyone makes. So if you could lower the Hodge twins' impact and DC Drano's impact and my impact and Breitbart's impact, if you can do that for a few months before election, then all of a sudden you can sway millions of votes. And I know what they're doing because every election season, they haven't done it to me yet, but last time they did it, majestically a couple months before an election, they're cutting my reach and telling me that I'm not allowed to reach a bunch of people, and then they give it back a few months later. I know exactly what the Democrats are doing, and this is why I talk about it, but I'm not sloppy. Like, if you just run around screaming election fraud, you're going to get censored. But what are you doing about it? Nothing. You're impressing a bunch of Trump supporters. You're not doing a deep dive, investigative, and analytical documentary on it. You're not bringing new facts to the table. You're not getting whistleblowers. You're just saying a word. You're stepping on a mine. And these are the mines. This word, this word, this word, this word. So what I do is, instead of just stepping on mines and complaining about it, I go in circles around them, and then when they try to censor me, if they ever tried to take away my Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, and they ever tried to libel or defame me on a statement that I'm 100% right, I'm going to do what Alex Berenson did, and I'm going to be their worst nightmare. I don't want to do that. I shouldn't have to do that, but I get the game they're playing. Andrew Tate, he knows what he's doing. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He probably doesn't even care if he gets censored. I mean, it sucks, but he has a strategy. Alex Jones created his own social network. Donald Trump, to his credit, created his own social media. We'll see how it does. This is the game we got to play. Two things. Either play the game, don't censor yourself, but find a way to get around it, or create your own completely alternative platform and be ready to take the arrows that Owen Benjamin has taken. Be ready to take the arrows that Alex Jones has taken. Get ready to take the arrows that, I would say Gab has taken and Andrew Torba, because, it's a difficult journey no matter who you are, but play the game. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying to be a fake, just know what you're in. If I'm playing someone in basketball, I'm not just going to run in a straight line. I'm going to zigzag. I'm going to put it between my legs. I'm going to pass a little bit. I treat this like a game as well. I don't just run into mines. And a lot of, like, Carrie Lake, I would vote for her. I hope she wins. I like her. I think she's going to be a good governor. But I don't know that I'd even have her on my live stream, because she's not playing Minesweeper. She's just stepping on mines, stepping on mines, stepping on mines, and not really providing new insight to the mines she's stepping on. She's not blowing my mind with new research. She's just stepping on mines. So unfortunately, Crowder had her on his show, and she stepped on a mine on his show, probably purposely. It's like kamikaze pilots. A lot of Trump supporters, they just run into mines and act like they're surprised and don't provide any new insight or interesting intel on it. And she got Steven Crowder in trouble. I would vote for Carrie Lake. I want her to win. I think she'll be one of the best governors in the country, personally. I'd vote for her if I was in Arizona. But, she's a mind stepper. You can afford to do that when you're making millions of dollars in on a campaign, and you'll get coverage no matter what because you're friends with Trump and you'll get on Fox News, etc. But that's all I'm saying. For us individual creators who've worked years to build it, know the game. Either create your whole alternative platform and say whatever you want, or be very careful about what you say, so if they ever do fact check you, etc., you're ready to defend yourself in court or any way that you have to when it comes to, proving the fact checkers wrong in a public court of opinion. So that's the game I play. I'm just being transparent. Let's read some more comments. Someone said Crowder didn't care if YouTube booted him. Crowder's definitely rich enough, I think, and he's got a big enough thing. So it's also, I'm just going to give you a little influencer secret. Sometimes it's good to get persecuted because then you can get a bunch of people to give you money. You know what I'm saying? If I ran for governor tomorrow and I said, I'm going to be the next governor of California, I would raise more money in a week than I've ever raised, which sucks because I'm actually making a bigger impact now. I'm actually doing more to shift culture, to change public perception. I'm doing it now. I'm doing way more than I would if I ran for office. This is more, in my opinion, beneficial than me losing by 40 points to Gavin Newsom. But if I ran for office, people would just throw money at me. I would make more money in a week than I've made in 5 years. And that's sad to me because I wish I could make more. But it's not a big deal. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying. It's the same thing as being persecuted. If you get persecuted in the right way, people will rally behind you. It's not a bad thing. That's good. I mean, if Steven Crowder gets kicked off YouTube, he's going to probably make more money on Mug Club or whatever he does. When Alex Jones got kicked off, I heard he made $1 million in a day possibly, and now he's built his own platform. I'm not saying people purposely do it. I'm just saying, our people are very loyal, or whoever you want to say is loyal. And, sometimes it is beneficial to be persecuted when there's January 6th, CNN gets high ratings and they get a lot of fundraising. When abortion gets overturned, CNN makes money. When there's a school shooting, they push gun control. When, Trump gets raided, he makes a lot of fundraising. That's just the way the world works. I'm not saying people plan it. I'm just saying in general, that's, if you can afford it and if you have a solution to get your audience back, it can be beneficial to be temporarily persecuted. But what's not worth it is losing millions of followers and stuff, because then you lose your influence. And there's people who can rally. I think like I said, Owen Benjamin's created his own community. He's rallied in his own way. Alex Jones has rallied in his own way. Someone who hasn't rallied, in my opinion, is like Stefan Molyneux. He was huge on Twitter and YouTube, and now nobody really thinks about him. I'm not saying it's bad, but like some people are able to rise again from the ashes and create their audience again, and others aren't. It's a very difficult thing to lose everything and start over again. But let's see, he's joined Rumble. Rumble's cool, man, but it's not. It hasn't quite cracked YouTube, but that's fine. It's not I like Rumble. I root for Truth Social. Anybody that's gonna break up, I wouldn't call it a monopoly, but whatever you want to call it, that's definitely good to have more competition. So I'm all for all these alternate platforms. It's just they're not reaching as many people. They're not paying people as much. They're not reaching as many people. So I look at it in two ways. One, the reach to me matters. A lot of people ask, why are you on Facebook? Why are you on Twitter? Obviously, it's nice to make money. Obviously, it's nice to not be poor. But really, the most important thing is to reach people. Say what you want about Facebook. Is Facebook corrupt? Absolutely. Is Mark Zuckerberg kind of a strange character? Duh. Is YouTube owned by corrupt people? Is Twitter corrupt? Yeah, but I'm not like a hater because I was relatively or almost completely unknown without YouTube and Facebook. YouTube allowed me to reach 3 million people by the time I was 22 with my music and get record label meetings from an internet website. Facebook allowed me to reach billions of people. I don't know, hundreds of millions of people. I got 700 million views. I don't want them to do anything, but even if something happens, this is still a blessing. You know what I'm saying? It put me from here to here, whether they like it or not. So I don't view them all as bad because it's, I wouldn't even go somewhere like for more money to reach less people if it didn't make sense, because I don't want to lose the influence. We don't want to leave 1 billion people and just talk amongst ourselves. So there is benefit to reaching people on these platforms. Rumble's great, but it's got such a small percentage of people there that you're not really in the culture if you're only on Rumble at this point, unfortunately. It depends what you want to do, though. If you want to build a breakaway civilization, you can just go somewhere else. But I'm still trying to, flip things around. I think humans are inherently good. I think certain people have been brainwashed, and if we can send the scales in the other way, we can fix a lot of the world's issues. I mean, the social engineering to me is like a root level issue. It's fascinating. I watched the movie Uncle Tom too. They did a really great job of explaining certain things. one of the things I'm going to have Chad Jackson from Uncle Tom 2 on my stream next week to talk about it when the movie premieres. Really great guy. But, integration, the civil rights movement, and Martin Luther King, it's not everything they taught you. I'm not saying it's not good when people can come together, but really, they didn't just destroy white infrastructure, they destroyed black infrastructure. So a large reason that a lot of these neighborhoods are just totally run down is because when the civil rights movement passed, and I've been talking about this for a year now because I read Manning Johnson's Color, Communism, and Common Sense, fantastic book. I would say maybe my favorite book I've read in the last year or two, and super short, so it's easy to read. He explained as a black man in America who was more conservative, he's a Christian who used to be a communist and defected from the Communist Party. He said that when they integrated, black people lost schools, black people lost businesses. There were black mechanics, black engineers, black, taxi companies. Like, black people actually owned things. They were actually, it wasn't like everybody was sad and they were thinking about slavery. Like, people were crushing it in the early 1900s. And even though the civil rights movement socially brought certain people together, it did so in an inorganic manner. And it also took away a lot of infrastructure and business from both sides of the equation, which then sent, certain communities spiraling. I mean, really, you could say it had a negative impact in many ways. I'm not saying there's nothing good and there's no pros against the cons, but it's not what they taught you. So, I think people are inherently good if they're left alone to actually be men and figure it out. Like, if the black community and the white community came together and the real alphas in the community came together and figured it out, things would have came together naturally. There would have been natural integration. There already was natural integration, but it's like the way that they did it with Martin Luther King as the face, it's not what they said it was. So long story short, I think a lot of people have been deceived, misled, and culturally brainwashed. That's why what I do, I don't want to run for office. I mean, it's interesting, but I'm trying to have a cultural impact through music, through, my friends and stuff. Just get people to realize it's actually not cool to do what the left wing wants to do, and it's not cool to do what the culture wants you to do. Once kids realize that, once we put it in the other direction, we could actually see some real progress in this country. But until then, we're just stuck in this like dummy loop, and everybody's like just getting weaker and angrier, and it's not good. We got to be happier, healthier. Let me see. I'll put some comments on the screen. Someone said Brian Stelter totally doesn't smell his own farts. I almost get a bad smell just reading that comment. Thank you, Blah Blue, but yeah, I'm not. Someone said Andrew Tate beats women. I don't know about those allegations. I'm not going to speak on them and be like the media, but I'm not here to tell people he's a perfect person. I'm just speaking merely and analyzing the censorship and analyzing good things I've heard and things I disagree with him. But I'm not going to. There's a lot of accusations. There's accusations against Dan Price now, this left-wing CEO. There were accusations against Dave Portnoy. I'm not TMZ, and I'm not report, like, if these are credible, they'll come out, but I'm not gonna like speculate on accusations. I don't know enough about it. This is a good question. Benjamin said, was looking forward to your book. Last I heard it was around Christmas. How's it coming out? So I have a few exciting things to tell you, and I promise I'm getting it done by this Christmas. I'm going to make a promise because it's got to be done by this Christmas. So my book's almost done. I just have to do like final touches and editing. It's hard because I run this business. Obviously, I do the merch stuff. I run all my social media. I'm the producer of the show. Right now, I'm doing 7 days a week. I mean, I'm not trying to brag. I'm just laying it out. Most people do like one show every week or one show every 6 days, and they have a whole team. They have a producer, they have an editor, they have a marketing team. I do everything myself, and I'm doing a 7-day-a-week show. So it's been tough because I'm about to sell multiple new products I've been working on for a year, trying to get the best quality stuff because I'm not going to just sell some crappy stuff. So I got new products coming. That's been a lot. I'm working on a marketing course. That's been taking a while. All that's going to be done. By December, I'm going to have one new product, well, 2 new products, but I don't even want to tell you because they're different types of products. One of them is something to drink with. The other thing is a beauty type product. That's going to be out. The book is going to be out by December, and the marketing course. I just got to like take a break one day and just do all my work. When I take a break, I just do other work. Like on Saturday and Sunday, if I still do live streams. Last Saturday and Sunday, I did 3 different live streams. I did one with Eric Griffin. I did another one for someone else, and three total, a private one for Patreon. And then that was my off day. I'm doing 3 things on my 2 off days, and then I'm sitting outside in the sun just writing my marketing course. Like, that's a relaxing day for me, is doing work that I'm not able to do. On my off day is when I write the book. I don't have days off unless I'm like traveling. I like what I do though. I don't consider it that hard, so I don't cry about it. I'm just saying. Someone said be careful not to burn out. I agree, but I feel better than ever. Honestly, I'm going to put that on the screen if I can. Thank you, Junior. I appreciate you. I feel happier. I feel like I'm in good shape. I'm working out. I'm excited. I'm passionate. I'm going to sleep early and waking up early. I have a great schedule, so it's easier to get stuff done. Sometimes I go to bed at 10:30, 11. I wake up at like 5 or 6. So I appreciate that, but I won't burn out. I feel inspired. I feel grateful, and, I will take a break eventually, but I just can't right now. It's fun. I mean, this is why I'm also happy I've done harder jobs. I've done farming. I lived on a farm for half my life, and I worked on a farm for an entire summer. That's really hard. I've been a cashier. I've worked at CVS. I've done overnight stocking. I've gone in at 10 and left at 6 a.m. I've stocked the shelves at a supermarket for a year. I've done some really difficult jobs. Like, farming is one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's hot as hell. You wake up at 4 a.m., you go when the sun sets, and you're just like in the fields. This, I gotta work hard. I can't take a day off when my job is talking to a camera about things that I talk about to my friends anyway. It's like I could have the same conversation with my friend and not monetize it and not get views and not do my job. So I just can't take a break because I don't consider this that strenuous. If the hardest thing I have to do in a day is have a conversation with a comedian that I used to watch on Workaholics, it's not, I can't stop. I just can't let myself do that. Someone said, try roofing. Oh, I bet it's extremely difficult. I mean, obviously the physical labor is one thing, but when you're on a roof, you also have to balance yourself and the sun is beating down on you. I can imagine. I also worked at a landscaper. I did landscaping for a summer, drove a truck, weeded stuff. Man, physical labor is no joke. Working outdoors is no joke. I don't know where you live, my guy, but like in the extreme heat or the extreme cold, working outside is very difficult, whether it's really hot or really cold. Someone said, dude, take it easy on the Russell brand, LOL. I don't even know what that means. What does that mean? Take it easy on the Russell brand. Okay. Thank you, Megan. I will think about what you said, even though I have no idea what it means. Someone said Real Men Roof. Yeah, it's a great job. Do I have my own alternative platform? I don't. I'm on Rumble. I'm on BitChute. I'm on Gab. But right now, I don't. I would like to build that stuff. But like I said, without rambling on, I work 7 days a week. I do all my own production. I literally work harder and do more content than people that have 20 staff members. So I just don't have time to build my own platform. But if the right person came along and I trusted them and I knew they could handle the job and they made sense to me, then I would do it. I'm looking to form partnerships now because I'm too busy, but until then, I just don't have time for it right now. Someone said my hubby's a master roofer, one of the hardest working men I know. Yeah, I definitely like this last couple years. I mean, obviously the whole era of like left wingers going crazy, it really makes you appreciate people that actually work. And it's funny because most workers that you meet are actually more conservative because they actually do things. Like, you meet somebody who roofs. I guarantee if you took a poll of roofers, plumbers, truck drivers, landscapers, I guarantee most of them would be conservative. It's not because they're mean. It's just because they actually work and like make money and have a life, and they realize that it makes more sense on every level of like society to just be a little bit more right-leaning. It's like Uber drivers. Most Uber drivers I had were conservative. It didn't matter what race they were. I would have this black guy that was from Sudan that was literally the blackest person I've ever seen, because everybody's black nowadays. You're brown. Sean King is black. Rachel Dolezal is black. Black almost doesn't mean anything anymore. If Sean King's black, then I'm black. But it's like this guy I'm saying was like that color from Sudan. He's listening to Sean Hannity. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, oh, you're conservative? He's got like Fox News Radio on. Why? Because he actually works. People that do things and pay taxes and have to pay for gas, they get it. A left winger will be like, I don't care if gas is $15. Like, you literally live in your mom's basement. It's not just like a talking point. It's like you're in your mom's basement, your mom's paying for your gas, and you don't care about gas because of the patriarchy, but you have a college degree. And, it's like people that work of all races are like, yeah, I can't afford to pay gas because I want to buy diapers for my kid. And a liberal's like, I don't care if you pay gas because I want to do cocaine with Zelensky. And you're like, they're like, I don't care if we send $50 trillion. I'll wear a mask forever. I'll pay $50 gas to defeat Putin. It's like, that's the most privileged, sniveling take ever. Anybody that works, like Hispanic, white, black, it's like if they're doing something and paying gas, I would say 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 Uber drivers when I used to not have a car, they'd be conservative. Didn't matter if it was a woman, black dude, Hispanic guy, white woman. Like it was all, I would get to the conversation because I didn't want to make it weird, but I just asked certain questions. Usually they'd complain about me. Once they realized I wasn't a psycho liberal, they'd be like, gas prices are high. I was like, yeah, that's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, California, they're higher. I always know how to ease it in without saying Democrat or Republican. And they would open up to me once they realized I wasn't a psycho liberal. They're like, yeah, what's up with all the, everybody's so sensitive nowadays. I'd be like, yeah, I know. It's like everyone needs a safe space. It was like we'd ease our way into the conversation. And once they realized that I wasn't left wing and they weren't left wing, they're like, oh, yeah, and then they would just open up to me and just complain about liberals the whole time. And this was in Los Angeles, guys. It's like most people who work in Los Angeles are not like the sniveling, kids hearing, I'm paying $15 in taxes to fight Putin. I'd give up gas. I don't care. I'll starve to death just to fight Putin. It's like, why? Why would you sacrifice yourself for Zelensky? My gosh. The Yeti said they looked at the bones of our farmer ancestors who did it their whole lives. A common woman was stronger than our strongest men. Imagine the men. Oh, you're saying women back in the day were stronger than men are now? That's pretty crazy. I'm not surprised. I mean, we've been lied to about history. I'm not saying it was amazing back in the day, but, I'm glad this movie I just watched that I was talking about, Uncle Tom 2, they talked about Booker T. Washington versus W.E.B. Du Bois. I can't wait to talk to Chad Jackson from the movie because he's he gets it, man. He's a plumber. He has a plumbing company. He's in the movie, I'm saying, from Texas. This guy's epic. And it's nuts because Booker T. Washington, I got to read more books because I remember in school when we read Booker T. Washington, I remember being like, wow, he's so smart. How did nobody have education back then and everybody was so evil and corrupt and racist, but this guy's smarter than even white people nowadays. It's not oh, he's this guy who could barely get educated. I'm like, he's smarter than other races now. Why are black people from the 1800s and 1900s, why are they smarter than everybody is today? Why do they make more sense? Why are something's not right? Because I was told it was all bad and evil and dumb and they had nothing and they couldn't make jobs for themselves and everything was oppressed. Why is he so then I'm deep diving, I'm like, oh, this guy was epic. And then W.E.B. Sneak Boys came along, the sneaky Du Bois, and he's brainwashed everybody with socialism and communism. But Booker T. Washington was a based, epic man, black conservative, proud American. There was a whole ideological battle back then. Yeah, Uncle Tom 2 will be out in a week. I'll give you guys, I'm going to get a 30% promo code from it. I'm not giving it now, but, everybody always tries to get me to sell their stuff, and I don't do it because I just don't need money and I don't want to sell something I don't like. I like the producers, the directors, the people in the movie, and there's some very, very interesting information in the documentary. So I am going to give a promo code for that when it comes out in a week, and I'll give you guys 30% off. And, I never do this type of stuff, but it is a great movie, and there's a lot of good intel in there. But, it's so crazy how sneaky they were in the 1900s. Things were actually, people were starting to crush it and get better. And then these sneaky people came along and they're like, yeah, hate everybody, do socialism, and just brainwashed an entire generation. If everybody listened to Booker T. Washington and the black community went that way, man, things would have been so different. Because he was don't complain, make things happen. We can do it. We can build our own stuff. And then, people like W.E.B. Du Bois were like, no, you got to be hateful. Let the NAACP sneaky sneaks, crazy stuff. I don't want to get into it. I'll have that conversation next week. But yeah, W.E.B. Du Bois sucks. So does Helen Keller. Helen Keller was a socialist who supported eugenics. That wasn't in the movie, but research Helen Keller. She was literally a socialist. She can't even like see or allegedly hear, and she has some sneaky person being like, yeah, you should do socialism. And then apparently her Wikipedia at one point said she was pro-eugenics. I'm like, why would Helen Keller be pro-eugenics? If eugenics was around, she would be the first one to go. So I don't think you know what eugenics means, Helen Keller, or else you probably wouldn't support it for your own self-preservation. Like, you know, yeah, Google, I mean, let's just go to Helen Keller's little sneakypedia. I call Wikipedia sneakypedia now, but let's see, Helen Keller. Let's get into who Helen Keller was. Let's see. Allegedly, reportedly. Let me search real quick. Let me see. Keller was also a prolific author, writing 14 books and hundreds of speeches and essays, ranging from animals to Gandhi. Keller campaigned for those with disability, women's suffrage, which is the right to vote. Obviously a terrible idea. Just kidding, but seriously. Labor rights and world peace. In 1909, she joined the Socialist Party of America. She was the founding member of the American Civil Liberties Union. So she founded the ACLU, which now clearly hates the country and actual liberty, and she was part of the Socialist Party of America. All right, let's search eugenics real quick. Did you like my women's suffrage joke or no? That was pretty funny, but I know some women are going to spiral. Admit it was a good one. But anyway, let's see. What's it called again? Eugenics. Keller supported eugenics, which became popular with new understandings as well as misapprehensions of principles of biological inheritance. In 1915, she wrote in favor of refusing life-saving medical procedures to infants with severe mental impairments or physical deformities, saying that their lives were not worthwhile and they would likely become criminals. Keller was also expressed concerns about human overpopulation. So, helped found the ACLU, was part of the Socialist Party of America, and was pro-killing babies because she thought their lives weren't worthwhile if they had any sort of mental illness. Meanwhile, she was allegedly deaf and blind. Doesn't she realize that she would have been murdered as a kid if they did eugenics? I mean, this stuff is just fascinating, folks. I'm not a Keller denier. I'm just literally reading her Wikipedia. And perhaps worst of all was the fact that she wanted women to vote. How disgusting is that, right, women? Just kidding. Just kidding, Mark Zuckerberg and the they, thems that are watching this video now. They're like, oh my gosh, why does he think I shouldn't vote? I'm like, I don't know. It's funny to say. Anyway, let's read a few more comments and let's take off before we get this canceled. Someone said, we belong at home with our kids. I mean, it's definitely better than being like a 45-year-old Washington Post journalist who hates themselves and drinks wine all day and has 17 cats. I'm not saying women have to be home, but it's definitely a better idea than being Kathy Griffin, I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's good to be like 60 and like angry at Twitter all the time and looking like physically like melting and, watching Rachel Maddow and just chugging wine and, going to Coachella. I don't know. Maybe I'm not, only God can judge. I don't know what's best, but I do like to make jokes about it for sure. Someone said I don't drink or have cats. There's nothing inherently wrong with wine. I know great people that drink wine. There's nothing inherently wrong with cats. I know great people who have cats. I just think it's funny to talk about. There's great people who drink wine and have cats. And then there's also people that are not that great that, do the same thing. Someone said, whatever happened to Tim Pool still ghosting? He never responded to my Instagram message. So yeah, he blew me off. We never have spoken, but it's all good. I'm over it at this point. I mean, it was a missed opportunity, but I don't know. It's over at this point. Like, I'd be willing to talk with him via Zoom call, but I'm not going to his little beanie mansion anymore. I'm over being stuck in the middle of Washington with like zero customer service or like basic humanity. It's not fun for me. I'm not that desperate to be on a show to get stuck in the middle of somewhere for 3 days and just get treated like garbage with no response. But whatever, The beanie mansion, that's where people go to, to hide their insecurities through political rants. That's where you go if you're in your 30s and you're balding and you're afraid to show the world, so you just wear the same color beanie every day like Charlie Brown and scream at your guests. They're like, hey, Tim, I'm Tim Pool. I'm Tim Pool. I wear a beanie. I hate myself. Ah! He like yells over his guests, and people are like, oh my God, 50,000 views. I can't wait. It's like, it's like, is that what people like to do? Listen to like people like, okay, I get it, but it's like, if you just love yourself, you change the world by changing yourself. You know what I'm saying? Once you heal yourself, you won't act that way. It's all internal. I don't believe anymore even in like political activism. It's got to be internal activism. You can't be an activist if you hate yourself so much that you hide your head because you're afraid to show it, and you wear a hat in sweltering heat just so nobody knows, but everybody knows. It's like the elephant in the room. Like, you're just lying to yourself, and everyone knows, but nobody says anything. But everyone knows, the whole world knows, but you just don't want to face the truth. It's like, I'm not knocking it, but it's like, I think he'd be more effective if he healed himself, because, even if you're right wing, even if you're conservative and you're on, the right side of history on a lot of cases, you're not going to be a great person. You can't love other people if you don't love yourself. Someone says shots made. No, this is a psychological deep dive. I'm not saying you should be egotistical, but ego is fake love. If you love yourself, right? I'm going to break down some psychology for you guys. This is the truth. Self-esteem is not ego. Loving yourself is self-esteem. It's good to love yourself. You can't love others until you love yourself. Ego is false love. Ego is false pride. Tim Pool doesn't love himself. That's why he hides his bald head with a beanie all the time, because he hates himself. So Tim Pool's constantly yelling at his guests and yelling at other people, and he's constantly like angry and hateful. Even though he has good political takes, he's a mess because he doesn't love himself. That's why he's such a dick to everybody, because he's egotistical, because now he has money and he feels like, I'm a powerful special boy because I have money, but I hate myself. It's all bad. Once Tim Pool loves himself, he could show love to me and other guests and other people, and he'll have a bigger heart. But right now what you see is false ego and false pride, because he's a little beanie gremlin who's afraid to love himself. I hope Tim Pool loves himself, because then you'll start to see him become a better person. Until then, you're going to see him spiral and yell over his guests and treat people like garbage because he hates himself. He can't treat me with respect if he doesn't respect himself. So, psychologically, it's important to love yourself and have a high self-esteem, not to be an egotistical douchebag, but you can't possibly love others. You can only treat others as deeply as you've met yourself. So if you really are kind to yourself and you really clear out your own personal inner demons, that's when you're the best version of yourself. That's when you're the best husband or best wife. That's when you treat others with respect. That's when you become a great person. You can't walk around with a smile on your face and be happy to everybody unless you're truly happy. I'm a pretty pleasant person to be around. I'm very nice to baristas and people in my community, and I do so because I'm actually happy. You know what I'm saying? I actually like myself. I've forgiven myself, and also, I've put in the work. I've cleared my demons. I've cleared my, issues, and I love my parents. I'm appreciative. I'm grateful. I'm optimistic, and life is good. So because I've cleared out internally, I'm able to be a better person. But when you don't love yourself, that's when you become an egomaniac and you just treat everybody like garbage to knock them down a peg, to bring them to your level. Misery loves company, right? If you're not a miserable person in the neighborhood, you're trying to lift everyone up, put a smile on their face, crack a joke, make them laugh. You know what I'm saying? Tell them respectfully, hey, I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're great. And if we put in the work, we could crush it together. A miserable person tries to drag you down to their level because misery loves company. Someone said, am I cool with David Icke? I can't say we're cool at all, but I like David Icke. I think he's a very calm guy. I like his demeanor. He seems like a nice guy. I don't know what he's been talking about recently, but he's definitely a legend in the game of just talking talking conspiracy. But I've never met David Icke. I would assume we'd get along great. He seems like someone who doesn't hate himself. David Icke, say what you want about his reporting. Maybe you don't trust it. Maybe you think he's lying, but he seems very comfortable, right? He doesn't seem like angry, like he's like spiraling like Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland and Tim Pool have the same energy. You know what I'm saying? Like, Tim Pool has way better political takes. Tim Pool, he's better at analyzing news. But like, him and Merrick Garland have the same energy. Like, Merrick Garland's steaming out of his ears. You know what I'm saying? Like, Tim Pool's just waiting to yell at his guy. It's like, You know, it's the same energy. It's like left wing and right wing, like steaming internally. Like, you know, it's like AOC. When AOC talks, does she seem comfortable to you? Listen to like G. Edward Griffin, or listen to like even David Icke. I don't care if you agree with what he says. You could tell he's like calm and at peace. And he's like, here's my conversation. When you listen to AOC, it's like the demons inside her are like screeching out. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're trying to fly out of her body like the monkeys from Wizard of Oz. You know what I'm saying? Like, she doesn't look comfortable. If she cleared her spirit, she's a beautiful woman. You know what I'm saying? Respectfully. But you know, her energy is so ugly. It's not her looks. She's not an ugly woman, but her energy is disgusting to me. Like, she doesn't seem comfortable. Like, a woman that loves herself and is confident in her ways would be like, here's my beliefs about socialism. And I'm like, that's real, or whatever. You know, but like AOC always looks so uncomfortable. She's just like, like, that's the energy I get. It's like the demons are like pouring out of her ears. And that's like Tim when he's like yelling at Alex Steiner. I mean, you know, like Merrick Garland's like, me. He's got like steam just blowing out his ears. And I'm like, dude, you don't have to like Donald Trump, but you don't have to be that angry, bro. It's okay. I mean, it's okay to lose your cool once in a while, but it just seems like they're steaming internally. And I'm telling people why. It's like, you got to do the inner work. It doesn't matter if you're left wing or right wing. If you don't love yourself, you can't love others. If you're not comfortable inside, you can't treat others with comfort. So, you know, there's a phenomenon going on in this world. It's misery loves company. When somebody is not confident and they're not comfortable, they start to be envious. They start to be egotistical, prideful, a bunch of sins, sometimes slothful, you know? But once you really crush it internally, you realize, oh, I don't have to bring people down in order to level up. Like, in order to build the biggest building in the city, you don't got to knock every tower down. If you knock every tower down, that means you're jealous and you just want to win by default. You want to cheat. You want to be evil. So, you know, true good and true peace comes from, you know, doing the inner work and then just crushing and lifting others up, not constantly like cutting other people down in order to like feel better about yourself. Yeah, no, I'm sure he is a good skater and he's a good singer. I mean, he's got a lot of potential, you know? I just think in general, no matter how much money you have or fame or, you know, how you treat others and how your operation works, you know, says a lot about you. And I've been to hundreds of places in my life and I've never been treated as poorly or with like lack of regard. And, you know, that's on them. I definitely kind of spit some fireballs metaphorically back because I'm like, why? Like, I'm not thrilled about being stuck in the middle of nowhere. The least I could get is like an ounce of hospitality or respect, and it is what it is. Moving on. I just wanted to use that as a way to tell people, like, I don't know, in general, if you want to be a political activist or change the world, you have to change yourself. I think, you know, important things Jesse Lee Peterson talks about, he's on point. He says to forgive your parents. If you don't forgive your parents, you're going to spiral. You are part of your parents. They're your genetics. They created you. You know what I'm saying? They brought you into this world. You have to forgive your parents. And if you don't, if you're not comfortable and you don't love your parents, you're going to end up spiraling, I think, in this world. So it's like forgiving your parents is important. Forgiving yourself, building forward, not living in the past or the future too much, living in the present, being grateful and appreciative of what you have. I think God helps, but some people, you know, don't need that, or I believe that it's crucial and eventually you'll spiral like Sam Harris, but that's my belief. But in general, it's like that's real activism, is doing the inner work, loving yourself, appreciating yourself, not in a crazy messed up way, but in a confident way. And that's when you could really max out. And once you do that to yourself, you're going to be a better person to others. You're going to be able to have the space to help others. You're going to be able to be a nicer person in your current day. If you see someone behind you that's miserable, right? Say you're driving and the person behind you is miserable. Did you make them miserable? Of course not. Why are they mad at you? Why are they so mad? It's them. It's all internal. If you see someone really happy, you know, and they say hi to you, did you make them happy? Maybe, but, you know, they are comfortable. They're having a good day. When someone has a bad day, if something bad's happening, that's when they try to tear others down. You know, it's like when internally something's going on with them. Everybody would be a blast. This world would be great. If everybody did the inner work, why would they want to bring you down? Of course they want to laugh. Who wants to be angry? Don't you want to laugh? Whether you're white or black or Asian and whoever you're talking to, don't you want to have a good time? What's the point of being angry all the time? You know, nobody's angry because they want to be. It comes from, you know, I would say issues. So clear up your own issues and you could be a better person. That's my take. Someone said, never got the appeal of Dim Tool. In my opinion, he's an ex-leftist propagandist who found a more lucrative grift on the right. I mean, I don't know what, I don't watch enough, honestly, to really know, but I think he's got some good takes, you know, outside of my own personal bias now, but I've always felt that he was an uncomfortable guy because he's always like, holy crap, oh my God. Like, he reminds me of like Beavis and Butthead. He's constantly cursing and just yelling Civil War. Like, he's like, holy crap, holy shit, oh my God. And it's like, he acts surprised every day by the same story. It's been the same story for 3 years, and every day he's perpetually shocked. You know, every day he's telling everybody a Civil War is breaking out. He's screaming over his guests. He's, you know, it's like, I mean, he definitely is better than a left-winger, but yeah, I mean, as far as there's a reason I didn't even know what time his podcast started. It's like, I don't subject myself to content like that. I listen to way better stuff, way more optimistic stuff, and people that are not just like rambling through headlines with no message. I'll talk about headlines, but I'm always trying to tie in important things, you know, on the back of that message. With them, it's just like, you know, it's, well, whatever, to each their own, you know, I'm not trying to be like a hater on this whole thing, but everybody has their own little, you know, preference of what they want to listen to and why. He gets good guests on and stuff. So God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Appreciate you guys. Real quick, I'm going to be doing a live stream on Facebook at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So that's in 3 hours from now. I look forward to it. Thank you to everybody on Facebook supporters. Thank you to everybody on patreon.com/raretalk. So I want to tell you guys a few things real quick. Patreon, the perk is, one, I'm reading people's names aloud, only your first name, because I'm not trying to air out your whole name or anything, but once a month, once every couple months, I'm going to give a thank you and give you a personal thank you on the podcast. We did it a couple days ago. Also, I have 4 secret podcasts. So if you go there, there's 4 podcasts with my friends. It's way more casual and way more loose, and just like people that I'm actually friends with in person. We just kind of hang out and talk about issues I don't get to on here. If you're interested in that and want to support, patreon.com/raretalk. Thank you to everybody there. Facebook supporters, we do a live stream every month or every couple months, and we're doing one today. So thank you to everybody on Facebook supporters. We're doing that. And yeah, just a few things. I'll let y'all know with the shop. We still have the hats and stuff at Dream Rare, but I'm going to do like a big, probably like summer's ending sale or something. And then I have new products. I'm excited. I'm throwing down quite a bit of money to buy. I don't even want to say what it is yet, but I've been working for a year on a new product. I've been trying it out myself, making sure the ingredients were good. I don't sell trash. I don't care. It's great. I got it. We're about to close the deal, and I'm about to have a new product line, and I'm pretty pumped about it because it's something I use myself, not even joking. In the category that it's in, it's the best product that I've ever used. Like, I'm not just saying that. I literally was like, I almost didn't do the deal, and I'm like, dude, I like this product so much. We got to get it done. So got a lot of stuff going on, but thank you guys for everybody supporting and sharing and watching. I'm very, very grateful. Thank you. Someone said shampoo. Not quite, but close. I appreciate y'all.